Hey everyone, it's Scott with Heritage Farms. Hey, this is pretty exciting. So what are we doing? Well, a couple of things. A, we're getting ready to go on a couple of days vacation. So before we took off, we wanted to cook a brisket and smoke it on the Traeger. So what's exciting about this, A, this is the first brisket I have personally smoked, and then B, this is a Heritage Farm brisket. It's a little bit smaller than what I would like. This brisket weighs basically 7 pounds from everything I read and researched. It probably needed to be more like 10 or 12. But you can see this brisket's actually in pretty good shape. They did a good job at trimming it. You can see the nice edges and how this is gonna look around here. But a couple of things I've read and researched. So I went to the school of YouTube, and a couple of things jumped down at me. Was just what they talked about and how you want to round the corners of the brisket. You don't want any really square edges on there. So that's one of the things we're gonna try to work on here, is rounding the corners of the brisket, trying to make this thing nice and aerodynamic, because any rough edges or corners is just gonna trap it. Now the other thing I'm doing is I'm taking the cuttings, I'm putting them over here because we're gonna probably throw those out on the grill as well, and smoke those maybe for the dogs or something like that. But yeah, you can kind of just get the gist of what we're doing here. We're cutting off any edges that we have, trying to make this thing nice and smooth. The other thing is they've already trimmed a lot of the fat on this brisket, so that's good. You can see on this end though, we got quite a bit right here, so I may give this a little cut. Just take some of this off. Let's see what I can do here. I don't want to take a lot of it off, but once again, we're just trying to get this thing where it looks nice and aerodynamic, and it's all about the presentation and everything as well. So let's see what we got here. I'm just taking a little slither, not going to remove a whole lot of it, not going to get happy. I want this thing to look nice and uniform on the cut here. Plus, I don't want to waste a lot of this, man, because that's good stuff. All right, so now we got this looking pretty good. All right, probably one of the top 3 barbecue places in the state of Texas is out of Houston. It's a place called Truth's, and I've done some research. These guys use French's mustard. So what are we doing here? You're like, oh, gross. Well, guys, actually, this is just a binder. It's really not gonna impact the flavor of the meat. It's just gonna actually allow the seasoning to adhere to it. And for the people that are gonna leave a comment, ooh, you didn't wear food safety gloves. Hey, this is for my personal consumption. If I was cooking this for a retail operation, sure, I would be doing that, but I did wash my hands, so I feel pretty good about that. Give me 1 second to wash my hands and we'll start applying seasoning back here. So now that we have a binder on here, the next thing we're gonna do is, for that Texas barbecue flavor, you want an epic bark on the brisket. So one of the things we're gonna hit it with first is just a little black pepper. Let's see, I learned this technique today watching a video about Truth Barbecue. Of course, those guys do 100 briskets a day down there for their restaurant, so they're doing a little bit better job than me. But notice how they have the container upside down, and you use the lid to actually get a good little bite on there. Always get the sides, get the end pieces. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna turn this over. All right. And the higher up you hold when you shake, you actually get a little bit better distribution of the seasoning. You see here, we got a good little mixture. We're not gonna put this on too heavy, because what we're gonna use next actually has a pretty good little deal. All right, so a lot of influence I get is from the Meat Church's channel, and I'll put a link up in the video. Go check him out. As far as I'm concerned, he's the godfather of barbecue. Everything I've learned comes from him. I'm a big believer in using his seasoning, and we're gonna use the Holy Cow seasoning that he has. All right. Same technique here. Let me think for a second which way I want to go. I'm going to start on the back side first. Once again, you really cannot use too much seasoning on this. I mean, you just really can't. So, you know, just season to taste, figure out what you want. But It's all about the presentation and getting this really nice bark out of this, and that is the ultimate goal. So let's make sure we're getting the edges, the end. All right, now we're gonna flip this over. Same thing on this side. And it's amazing, holding that bottle upside down and using the lid actually helps distribute the seasoning in a nice, easy way. Hold on one second, my seasoning needs to be shaken up. There we go, kind of a clump in it. So now you can kind of see what we're doing here. It's a good looking little brisket, man. I'm looking forward to this. All right, so we're almost there. The sides look pretty good. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put this in the refrigerator, and we're just gonna let it sit for probably, I don't know, 30 minutes, 2 hours, just kind of depends. Maybe even 2.5 hours. You don't need to go much more than that. We're gonna kind of just let it wet out. And then the plan is we're gonna put it on the Traeger grill tonight at 10 o'clock. And we're gonna put it on just a smoke setting, which is like 160, 180 degrees, somewhere in that range. Very, very low temperature. And we're gonna let that baby go all night long. Then we'll check it in the morning, see what it looks like. We'll probably turn the heat up a little bit in the morning. Then once this thing gets up around 170, we're gonna wrap it in butcher paper. And we'll crank the heat up on this thing, and we're gonna get it on up to, I don't know, 250, 275, somewhere in there. We'll cook it another 2 or 3 hours, and then we'll kind of let it rest, and we'll see what happens. But that's the plan of attack right now. So, all right, we'll come back when we're ready to put it on the grill. Good morning, guys. I'm Scott with Heritage Farms. Well, we put the brisket on last night at 10 o'clock. Look at this, man. It's starting to get some bark to it. A little bit of bark on that end and that end. Let's see what our internal temperature is here. If I can figure out how to work this thing. 127, 128. Slowly climbing. We're just going to call this somewhere in the neighborhood of about 130. We'll get it up to about 170 before we wrap it. So I want to look at this. So while I'm here, I'm going to do something. Oh, starting to get a good feel to it. And we'll rotate it. That way we'll get a little bit more exposure on that. And we're going to cover this thing back up and let her ride. More to follow. Okay, guys, the brisket's been on here for 10 hours, and basically we're trying to get this thing up to about 170 degrees to actually get ready to put a wrap on it. Let's see where we're at here. Put this thing on, and you can see we're at 150, so we got a little ways to go. Now, one of the things I just did to keep the ends from drying out, I just put a little aluminum cap, if you will, on both of the ends. And it's kind of funny how the way this thing circulates air, it gets a little bit dry on one end or the other, especially a big piece of meat. So this right now is just a little bit of a cap just to kind of deflect a little bit of the heat, but still allowing it to absorb the smoke and work on the bark. So we're gonna let this thing go another couple hours, and we'll see what happens. Okay, guys, we've had the brisket on for about 14 hours now. Basically cooking on a smoke setting. You can see we got a nice bark to it. What we're gonna do now is we're just gonna spray some apple cider vinegar on the butcher paper. My understanding, from what I've been told, is that it helps the paper become pliable, makes it easier to fold. Also, I guess it's good for the brisket as well. So the first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna fold this over. Like so. And my understanding is you want to tuck a portion of that under on each side. Crease this out. Fold this over. Do another tuck. Hopefully I'm doing this right. this. And then we're gonna do one more over. And voila, there you go. Now, the plan of attack is we're gonna put this back on the Traeger. We're gonna raise the temperature up to about 250 degrees. And we're gonna let this cook for another 2 hours. We're trying to get the internal temp close to 200 degrees. And then once we do that, we'll come back, we'll take it out. We'll let it just sit at room temperature and let it basically acclimate for about an hour or so. And after that, we'll basically try to keep it warm till about dinner time. So hey, looking forward to this. All right, this cook is coming to a close. Here we are. This thing's been going a little while. So we're gonna get our temperature pin. The goal being we're gonna get this thing close. You can see I've already poked a hole in it. We're gonna get this thing close to 200 degrees. Give or take a couple. Let's see what this thing starts to register here. Oh, look there, 198, 199. Close enough for government work. All right, pull this thing off, set it down. We are gonna come down here, put this on the shutdown cycle. That Traeger's been working, man. It's been going non-stop since 10 o'clock last night. So now the plan for the balance of the day is we're just gonna let this sit here outside for 1 hour and it's gonna continue to cook. So the plan is that temperature's close to 200 degrees. We're gonna let that thing naturally cool down to about 140. It's currently 4 o'clock. We'll take it back in the house after about an hour. We'll turn the oven on. We'll set the oven. Our oven has a low setting of 145. We'll put it in the oven and just let it warm until we're ready to have dinner tonight. Man, looking forward. It smells great. By the way, we used Meat Church pellet blend, premium hardwood. Have to tell you, it's about $4 or $5 a bag more expensive than some of the others, but considering this was the first brisket from our raised cattle off of Heritage Farms, I thought, what the heck, man? Let's go big, and hopefully this thing's gonna be great. All right, more to follow. Hey everyone, all right, we're wrapping up this first ever inaugural Heritage Farms brisket cook on the Traeger grill. So, to recap, we put this on last night at 10 o'clock. We smoked it all night long. This morning, we took it, we just kept watching it. We let that thing just smoke, trying to get a bark on it. Took it up to probably about 1:30 or 2 before we actually pulled it off and wrapped it. At that point in time, we raised the temperature, put it on for a couple more hours, took it off the grill, or off the smoker, let it sit for an hour to let it settle. Then we brought it in, put it in the oven over here, and just kept it at 140 degrees. So let's see what we got. Hopefully this is gonna be good. I don't know, we'll see, soon find out. Oh, look at all that juice coming out. This is gonna get a little messy, guys, I can already tell. But that's okay. Let's see what we got here. Holy crap, that thing is hot, hot, hot. All right, guys, there she is. Boy, look at that. You can see a little bit of smoke coming off of it. Look at that bark. Looks pretty good. So to quote Matt Pittman over at the Meat Church, this is the fat end of the brisket and this is the lean end of the brisket. Whenever you go to a barbecue place, they always say, hey, do you want lean or fat? If you want lean, it's coming from this side. If you want fat, it's coming from this side. And to quote him, this is the part you keep for yourself, and this is the part you give to your relatives or neighbors or somebody else. Keep the good stuff for yourself. So, all right, so we're gonna cut into this, see what we got, and we'll see what we have here. Keep in mind, this is the first brisket I've ever done, and it's the first brisket that we've ever had from Heritage Farms. All right. Okay, guys, so this is the first brisket that we've raised at Heritage Farms and had processed. So this is our beef from our farm. And also it's the first one I've ever smoked. So look at the nice little smoke ring you got around the edges. And let's just see what we're gonna do here. Let's cut a couple of slices off. So the grain of the beef runs in different directions on one end of the brisket versus the other end. So that's the fatty side right there. Look at that little smoke ring around there. So then we're gonna come over here and let's cut some off of the lean end and see what we got over here. And you can kind of get a little contrast and a little difference of what you're dealing with. So look at the lean side versus the fatty side on here. The other thing, whenever you're cooking a brisket, I've been told only cut what you want to actually eat at this point in time. Because you do much more than that, then you're gonna be in a situation where it actually dries the brisket out. So I'm gonna cut these in half just a little bit here. I'm gonna cut a little bit of that fat off here. Because I know the CEO and CFO of Heritage Farms is not a huge fan of that. But this is what we're gonna do, man. We're gonna take some of these chunks. We're gonna put a little bit of fat, a little bit of lean on here. Oh man, this looks good. There is one more test I wanna do. Let's see if it passes or not. We'll cut a little slice here. So I've been told you gotta give the brisket the finger test, and I hate to admit it, guys, but I think I have failed a little bit. In an ideal world, you want the brisket to actually fall all the way down. So a little bit of a possibility I may have overcooked this, so just saying, rookie mistake, maybe. I don't know, it's the first one I've done. All right, I gotta put a little barbecue sauce on here. So what are we using? I'm using a little Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. See what we got. That dog will hunt. Not bad, guys, not bad at all. All right, if you're looking for any beef, Heritage Farms, we can hook you up. All right, guys, as always, glory be to God. Thanks for watching.